you are, whatever you're doing, and look at what is in your brain. What are the thoughts that you've been thinking? What were you just thinking about and ruminating about? We are in a month where the mind takes center stage, and the quality of our thoughts, the things that we think about, the way that our mind works, really becomes something to pay attention to. We begin this week with a new moon in Gemini. Mercury, the ruler of Gemini, has just moved into the sign. So this is a month, but most especially a week of a lot of mental energy. You're going to be asked to do a lot of processing and a lot of mind exploration with a focus on challenging your mind. When we take a few minutes here and there to just sit and witness the mind and where it has gone and where it's taken us, it can be a really powerful practice. My name is Nalfa Perkins from Astrology. So nice to have you here. A big hello to everybody that has been with me for years, to everybody that's new. Make sure that you like and subscribe. I release these on my podcast, Star Narratives, and on YouTube in video form. This is the path ahead, my astrology forecast. We're going to be talking about the week of May 26th through June 1st. I'm going to be giving you guys energy from what's going on in the skies with the intent that you bring what you hear down into your personal life, your private experience. This is astrology for understanding your own psychological nature. We often get trapped in our conditioning and in who we were told that we were. And we are in a time on the planet where there's more to it than that. And if you aren't watching it, you're not aware of it, time to wake up. Although if you're here, you're probably already wide awake to the fact that you're in a spiritual awakening, which also means incredible personal growth because you have a mission on the planet at this time to start by self-improving and end by helping others too, by sharing what you've learned with others. So it's a sweet journey of self-exploration and of empowering the collective. And we need more of that right now. Make sure to check out my other shows. I have Astrology for Awakening. I go through all of the facets of all of the sun signs, again, with this emphasis on your own psychology and how each of the sun signs impacts you. We each have all of the signs in our chart. We are impacted by these archetypes. We're acting them out all day long, every day. If you don't understand it, then it's like you're just on autopilot and you're missing so much of the richness of being embodied on this planet. We can get up, do our chores, go to work, bring the kids to school, get home, cook dinner, and go to bed. We can do that. And in fact, you've probably had many times in your life where that was the MO. But there's more to it than that. And it's an adventure. Our eyes are opening, our hearts are opening. We are connecting with higher power in a different way. So it's important that your human self keeps up. Your psychological nature is on board. And that's what I'm teaching you here. It's more than just astrology. I am a mirror, and I will help you to see yourself more clearly. That is also true if you come get a private reading with me or a mentorship. I've got many ways to work with me. You can find me at electraastrology.com. And I say we jump into the charts for the week. So like beginning this week with a new moon in the sign of Gemini, right at 6 degrees of Gemini. You can look in your own chart and look for about 5 degrees on either side of that 6-degree mark in Gemini and look at where this moon is going to be hitting you. I'm also releasing Gemini talks all month this month. So we're going to be talking about the power of the mind. I'm going to cover a lot of this, but I want to dive into it right now for a minute because a new moon represents new beginnings, new ways of seeing things, new ways, in this case, of thinking about things. We have the sun and the moon, which are our internal king and our queen. They rule our kingdom, being our physical body and our psychology. And when the king and the queen are together, as they are in a new moon, this is where our heart, our sun, our consciousness comes together with our emotions and the way that we process our emotions, and that is the moon. So when the sun and the moon are together, there is a cohesiveness about how we're able to meet the world. In this case, a cohesiveness around the way that we think. The mind is a trickster. It is definitely a devious thing, and the mind can be our asset, and it can also be our greatest enemy. So a new moon gives you the opportunity to tune in with loving awareness, witnessing yourself as it relates to how your thoughts, that's Gemini, come in and impact your consciousness, your sense of self, that's the sun, and your emotions, that's the moon. Think about the last time that you had a thought that kind of threw you out of balance. Thought, well, that person doesn't like me, or that situation didn't turn out the way that I wanted it to. And now I'm stressed out. Or I read this thing on the news and now I'm fearful. Or I looked at my bank balance and it threw off my nervous system. All of the ways that our brain brings us these thoughts in an attempt to help us process, to keep us on top of things. But the thoughts really jolt us. They jolt our whole system. And they kind of bring us out of reality and into more of a thought spiral. So we want to be watching that this week, especially because when there's a new moon, there's always an opportunity to do something different, to improve in some way. The new moon is where we are planting the seeds that will grow for the rest of the month. We also have Mercury here, which is the ruler of Gemini. Mercury, which is the planetary messenger. It's that part of us that is helping to bring us the messages, that is communicating with the people, that is helping us to understand things, that is showing us the facts. Mercury is very strong right now, being in the sign that it rules. Now, a strong mind is a good thing if it is being helpful, but a strong mind is a very dangerous thing if it is leading you down the trail of anxiety and it's disrupting your nervous system. So we're getting discerning here about what we actually trust. This can be what we trust coming from our own mind. Do we trust what our mind is saying? And this can also be information that comes in through other people, through the news. Anything that comes in disguised as a fact, we want to be mindful of. We also want to be mindful of old information where it's like, I learned that thing way back when, and I've always held it as my belief for what is true now. And I let it color my perception now. So Mercury, Gemini energy is about perception, right? How do you perceive something? And we know that perception is really impacted by things that are outside of us. If it's a cold, rainy day, like it is here in Colorado, it makes the mood a little bit like downer versus when it's a sunny, hot day and it's like, ooh, what a great fun day. Let's go be outside. So we know that our perception is really easily skewed and swayed. And that is true of getting incoming information. Like, how are we perceiving it? Is it true? Is it stressful? Are we believing it? And so there's an opportunity here to take the control back from the mind. And I'm going to be talking about this on Astrology for Awakening in the Gemini episodes, this idea of mind control, really being on top of your own brain and not allowing yourself to go down the rabbit hole of what ifs, but also the road of I'm right. Because right now, we don't know if we're right. That is one of the things that we're working on as we are watching Neptune having changed signs into Aries and Saturn. And it's worth saying, we just watched Saturn change signs into Aries from Pisces. And this Pisces energy is all about what we don't know. It's all about confusion and being forced to take a higher perspective of the unknown. But now as these planets have moved into Aries, we will begin to get more clarity. But the clarity is all about what feels right in our guts. Our mind is not our gut. Our mind comes to the party with a whole bunch of baggage around conditioning and education and facts and conversations with other people and perception, right? Whereas our gut is this clean, immediate yes or no. So we talked about this in a YouTube live that I did with my friend and fellow astrologer, Lisa Salvatore. That's on her YouTube channel. You can check that out. We had a whole conversation about Saturn moving into Aries. It's worth listening to because we're all going to be working with attuning to our gut instinct. And there's something about all of this Gemini energy right now that is leading us into that, which is why we have to have control of our minds, because our logic informs us about what we should do or shouldn't do. But in order to follow the logic, we have to ignore the gut. And your gut is usually pretty spot on about what is right or wrong for you. So let this new moon, which is heavily involved with Mercury, and also in a trine to Pluto, helps us to see the deeper issues at hand. Let this new moon be a new beginning for you, where you are looking with consciousness at how your mind wants to control and asking it to step back a minute. Like, hey, I don't need you to be such a loud voice right here. I want to be tuning into my gut. And I want to know what my instinct has to say about this, as opposed to my conditioned mind that perceives things based on God only knows what, right? Like, I'm hungry. I have to use the bathroom. Somebody just yelled at me. All these things that can totally throw us off. There's also something to be said about this new moon where we're looking at just the energy of the chart, and we see that Mercury is in a sextile to both Ceres and Neptune. And technically, that sextile goes to the new moon and sun as well. So this brings a reminder that we are still and always under the influence of higher self. And the mind is the lower self. The mind is the human self. And when we tune into the physical body, which is represented in part by Ceres, when we tune into our higher power, our higher mind, our higher self, which is represented by Neptune, the answers are also quite different than they are when we're just working with our brain. On May 29th, we have Mercury in a conjunction with the sun. So my old astrology mentor, Jamie Kill Miller, used to call this the Epiphany Day. And I like that analogy because the sun is our king. So therefore, the ruler of our kingdom, the sun being the part of us that is who we really are and what's really going on and what we have come into this particular embodiment to explore and to get to know. It's our conscious self, and our conscious self is ever evolving. It's always gathering new information to explore while leaving old information behind, right? We're not static. We are always seeking the truth, the light, and that light shifts and changes. And when Mercury meets with the sun, this is the messenger. This is the planet that goes around the zodiac having conversations with all of the other archetypes. So all of the pieces within us, the spiritual higher self, the emotional mother, the warrior, the general, the feminine goddess. So we have all these archetypes with all these different planets. And when Mercury meets with the sun, it's as if they go into conversation with one another. And Mercury teaches us more about who we are. So when we call it an Epiphany Day, we look out for interesting things that come into our field of awareness that help us to understand what we're doing. What is next for us? Who are we now? You're changing faster than you ever have. At no point in history have you been more aware of who you are and what you're doing here, how you have been impacted by your history, what you would like to heal, and how you ideally want to move forward. You don't have all of the answers yet, and you don't have a complete picture, but your self-awareness is so much greater than it has ever been before. So when Mercury meets with the sun, prepare to have even more ideas, more inspiration, more awareness come on board. If we're on autopilot, we can miss it. And then we have to do double time the work to try to figure out who we are when we finally realize that we got some information back there and we ignored it and we have to go back to pick it up. So the final thing that I want to talk about, which feels like a really big thing for this week, is that Venus in Aries is going to meet up with Chiron in Aries. As both Saturn and Neptune have moved into Aries, as the asteroid Ceres as well, we've made the transition from in that Piscean energy of confusion and of not really knowing, but having to learn how to sit with the not knowing. And now we watch all of these planets transition into Aries, and we start to have more clarity, start to become more aware of what our boundaries are, what our passion, what is driving us. And Chiron has been in Aries for several years. It's been here since 2018, which means that when it comes to our clarity and our purpose and what drives us, our anger, our sacred yes or no, it's been hard to know. We've all been limping along with Chiron. Chiron is showing us our woundedness and the places where we aren't so sure of who we are and what we want. And it reminds us of times in our lives when we got burned, when we advocated for ourselves, or when we said, I want to do this, and we got shot down. And So we're coming into the final degrees here of Chiron in Aries. And as Venus, who has been through so much over the past few years, and Venus is that divine feminine goddess within each of us, Venus teaches us about our value system regarding our money, our self-worth, also our relationships. Remember, it was with Saturn for several weeks, just a few weeks ago, as well as retrograde in between Aries and Pisces. So even if we just went back that far and we looked at how we've had to face not having what we consider to be abundance, not having enough. I don't feel good enough. I don't feel loved enough. I don't have enough money. And when Venus was in Pisces, we had to learn that a lot of what we value, it just isn't all that valuable, right? When we're just valuing beauty, beauty is not sustainable forever. Tastes change in beauty. Age changes beauty. Money, we want money to buy stuff, but many times we buy things and then we get it and we don't care about it anymore. So we've had to do this recalibration as it relates to our value system. So think about the value system that you had even a year ago, what was important, what you were striving for, and look at how it has evolved and changed up until now. So we sit here with Venus hitting Chiron. And again, we're faced with more wounding around the things that maybe we thought we wanted and we weren't able to get. Maybe the ways that we were pleasing other people, attending to other people's needs because we didn't want to upset them. We didn't want to rock the boat. And now we're kind of mad about that. We gave ourselves away, or we gave what we had to somebody else, and now we want that power back. Or maybe we spent money on something that we thought was going to be great and there weren't any returns, right? So I'm just looking at this energy to say, in the past, the things that you have valued that didn't end up working out, you might feel some anger about those things rising up this week, but that's okay because this is about healing. This is a healing energy. This is getting the medicine for that wound. So you just want to pay attention to what's happening. We also see that on this same day, the moon is making a trine in Leo over here. So we are emotionally supported. And Mars is over here as well. So Mars is also reminding us that this isn't about what we've done in the past, what we gave away, what we didn't get, the debt that we went into in the past. This isn't about that. This is about understanding that that was part of our journey in getting to know ourselves now. So everything that we've gone through, where we've had to ride the waves of, I desire this thing and I either got it and it didn't make me feel the way I wanted, or I didn't get it, or I lost it, and all of the emotions that that brings up. And then the understanding that, great, it's made me a better person. It's made me a stronger person. It's actually helped me to fortify and understand myself and to dial into my real values, because we're moving into a new world, a new chapter, and we're not bringing our old values with. We're not bringing our old selves with. We're not bringing that unconscious, asleep, naive, or even righteous version of ourselves. We're bringing this new, grounded, more self-aware version. And of course, we're going to keep growing, but we're being more conscious about it. All right. So before we close out, in a nutshell, watch your mind. Watch where your mind wants to bring you. Watch what your mind wants to tell you. And know that Jupiter is now in the final degrees of Gemini. Once Jupiter leaves Gemini, which will happen in a few weeks, we're going to get even more insight into how our perception skews things, how it changes things, and how we don't have to be a slave to our perception and the way that our mind works. All right, I hope this was helpful, and I will see you all soon.